Welcome back to the Market Authority Show. I am your host, Stefanie Lugo, and I'm so excited to be here with Chandley. Chandley, hi. Thanks for hopping on with me today. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Oh my gosh, the pleasure is all mine. We were just talking offline, and I was saying, how long have you been in real estate for sure? And 7 years. I didn't realize that you've been in real estate for 7 years. And because everything that you seem to do, I feel like you're always breathing fresh energy into whether you're like posting on social media or sharing in the group from when you were with us in Market Authority. I don't know. I just feel like you still have like that springy energy about you. How has it been in real estate? And for those who don't know you or haven't met you yet, give us a little bit of background on where you've been and how you got to where you are now.
Sure. So I'm Chandley Green, and I have been in real estate for 7 years this year. I serve currently the North Atlanta suburbs of Georgia, and I got into real estate when I was 19 years old.
Mhm.
And when I think back on that, I think that's crazy. Like, I was such a baby. And at the time, I was working in like my small town that I grew up in. So I had an interesting timeline getting into real estate because it was like I had the connections, but I didn't necessarily have the know-how. And then not too long after that, we moved to Atlanta or Alpharetta, Georgia, north of Atlanta. And I then had the exact opposite experience. Now I had the know-how, but I didn't necessarily have the connections. So it's been it feels like it's been forever and no time at all at the same time.
Mhm.
But keeping the good energy in real estate, you have to, because every day is so different. You can never slow down.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's so easy to start to get jaded or just like a little burnt out, especially because every year there's just something new and something different happening. So tell me how this year has been for you so far, just personally or professionally.
Yeah, so professionally, it's been a great year, and personally as well.
Good.
I think it's going to be one of those years that I look back on and think, wow, this is like a mile marker year. Um, you know,
Oh, that just gives me
numeric
goosebumps.
Oh, numerically, by the end of June, I'm projected to basically have the same GCI year to date as I did for the entire year last year. And I set a really big goal for myself this year that I thought was a little crazy. And then to be halfway through the year and to be halfway to that goal, it has reminded me that, when you put it down in front of you on paper and put the supports around it, it can totally happen. And then one really exciting thing that has happened recently is that my husband left his corporate job and now he's working in the industry with me. He's on the team. And that has been something in the works for many years. I've always wanted to be able to do that. And I think it's going to set us up personally to have a lifestyle that will really serve us when we decide to have a family. And so we're just trying to get all the ingredients lined up for the, life by design that we want. And so this year has been one that I know that I'm going to look back on and go, wow, like you can do it. You can do it.
Oh my gosh, that's so exciting. So there's a lot that I want to dig into. First, let me get a lay of the land. Tell me about like just looking into your real estate business. What's your bread and butter right now? Where does most of your business come from?
Yeah, so I did my business planning as recommended by Market Authority. And last year, it turns out that the majority of my leads and my closings actually come from open houses.
Okay,
And so that is my bread and butter. And then in addition to that, very neck and neck is Sphere and referral.
got it. And so when you moved to where you are now, was that a challenge in getting that ramped up? Did you have to kind of start from scratch, or how did you start to build in that referral and sphere business?
Yeah, it was a little scrappy at first. I remember sitting in my apartment thinking, how do I how do I meet people? And then also how do I take those people I meet and turn them into clients for life ideally.
Hmm.
And so, one of the easiest things to do is join as many local things that you can, right? So I play tennis and I'm in a book club and I went to the apartment pool all the time and I went to a gym. And so like just using the things that you are going to do in your day to day anyway, and just try to make connections with people. I mean, that's where it all begins. So that's part of what I did. And then naturally, that's how I got into Market Authority as well.
Hmm.
At the time, I was sitting there thinking, I don't know what to do today or tomorrow or the next day. I know what I want this to look like in a month or 6 months, but how do I get there? And so that was what fueled me to get started with MAA as well. And so a little bit at a time.
I love that. When you joined Market Authority, it's funny because I was thinking back to that, and when you joined, we were like, I remember Karen Ann and I we talk about all the members who come in because we want to make sure that we understand who's there, right? We want to have an understanding of like who we're working with and making sure that they're a great fit. And I remember we're like, oh, she's such a perfect fit for Market Authority. She's going to do so well. And I think that you had a really clear sense of knowing that there was a lot that you didn't know or just like understanding what gaps you wanted to fill. And we were like, oh, we can absolutely help that out. So do you remember specifically which gaps? Like when you were thinking about what was missing in your day to day or knowing you didn't know what to do, walk me through what you wanted to correct there, what those gaps that were missing in your business.
Yeah. So whenever I was thinking about getting a real estate coach, I knew what I didn't necessarily want. And it was just frou frou hype, motivational
Rah, rah.
speaker vibes, right? Like
Yeah.
that's good. And I appreciate that. And you give that in the community that you built. But I wanted to know how to make money. And I wanted to know what to wake up every day and go, okay, I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And this is why. And even if I don't see the fruits of that labor now, I know that I'm moving towards something. Okay, I'll be more specific. One of the things in Market Authority that I was probably the most resistant to,
Mhm.
that maybe I was a little avoidant of, is a sauna. And
Okay.
I'm being very detailed here, but broadly, it's about tracking. And I feel like tracking is such a backbone of all the coursework in Market Authority.
Hmm.
So I'm a pen to paper kind of girl. And so I was like, oh, well, I mean, just because I type it into Asana and I put a date on it, that doesn't actually change it. I still have to go do it. I might as well not put it in there.
Hmm.
And I think one of the most impactful mindset shifts that I had was after the Market Authority Summit in Arizona. I attended for the first time in 2023.
Uh-huh.
And at the time, we take our yearly big picture, dreamy kind of, you know, journal entry kind of moment. And then you break that down and you say, okay, what are my initiatives for the year? And then beyond that, pull the curtain back more. What are the tasks and the activities that get me to those initiatives to have that accomplished? And I actually put that all in Asana and I put dates on it. And every single quarter of that year and every year since, I have exceeded my goals financially for each quarter. And I just said, okay, there's something to this whole tracking thing, and I should listen to Stephanie. And so, taking it back to what you asked is I didn't, I wasn't tracking anything. I didn't know, I wasn't tracking conversations or leads or money. I was just sort of throwing it all out there to see what sticks. And I think that's how a lot of new agents feel or new to market agents feel, because you can do a million things.
Mhm.
But what I realized is that I wasn't moving towards anything. I was just literally running in place and I was exhausting myself. So those were the gaps that I needed to fill. And yeah, it worked.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you for being so specific because I think that for real estate agents who are on the outside looking in, who feel like they keep running up against the same wall, it can be really hard to pinpoint exactly where we're missing the mark. And tracking is so important because they say that what gets measured gets managed.
Mm-hmm.
Even for me today, there are so many things that I put plans in place to do, but if I'm not going back, it's going to slip through the cracks and it's gone. And I'm curious for you in going through that process and then having just really a really fantastic year and beyond after implementing that. What did you learn about yourself?
Mm. Sometimes the things that you think are maybe a weakness of yours are just things that you have not challenged yourself with enough to give yourself a shot at being good at them.
Okay.
And so I thought, I'm a pen to paper girl, or, oh, these conversations, I'll remember to reach out. I'll remember to follow up. I don't need to, look at the underbelly. I just need to keep what's showing on the surface nice and shiny and pretty and market myself. And it's like, well, you also have to have the back end to support the people that you're pulling in.
Mhm.
And so I learned that I'm actually a little bit more nerdy about the tracking and the numbers and the data than I thought I would be. And so I've filled in I'm in different shoes in my business too. Like I'm not just the business marketing girl. I'm also like in the back end and I find a lot of fulfillment in it. So I think that answered your question.
No, it totally does. And can I share a really weird analogy, like something that I'm seeing similar here? I have a 5-year-old and a 2.5-year-old. And one thing that I've had to learn is that you have to actually teach kids how to clean, like how
Hmm.
to pick up their toys and how to organize things. And now that especially my 5-year-old is getting old enough to understand how to take instruction, I'm finding that I can't just say, hey, go clean up your mess, or not mess, but toys. But I have to specifically say, here, we're putting these toys in this box. And then when the box is full, we're putting this cap on the box and putting it away in the drawer. And like really breaking it down into these specific tasks. And you know what I've learned about myself in that process is that I naturally am not an organized person. And I'm not naturally a tidy person. I've not naturally been the kind of person to make sure everything is where it goes and everything is in its place. I'm just kind of like on to the next. And I think that that's because I've also haven't learned the skill of organizing and tidying until I became an adult.
Yeah.
And I realized, wow, I wonder, and now I actually enjoy organizing and being tidy and cleaning because I know what the expectation is and how to do. And I think that your observation there is spot on. There are so many things that we could be really good at, but instead of just being told, go track your metrics, it's so much easier and so much more satisfying when you have the actual steps laid out for you so that you're not guessing and fumbling your way through it, because that's what leads to overwhelm and feeling like a failure. Would you agree? I don't know if that's like a totally
No,
outlandish
that's
analogy, but that
perfect.
totally spoke to me when you said that.
That's perfect. Yes. And it makes me think about how I got into this career too. Like, I'll give my dad a little credit here. I was in college at the time. He just said, have you ever thought about real estate? And I was like, I absolutely not. I think I actually said absolutely not, which is funny now to look back on. But it's because I put what you had to be like. I created a box that I didn't think I fit in within the career, within the industry. Before I knew anything about one, maybe I didn't know enough about myself yet, or maybe I didn't know enough about the field, or both. Um, but I immediately boxed that in. And now I realize, whoa, there's a million different ways for this to take place. And the person that I am now, as a regular person and as a professional, it's always changing. So I love that analogy, because sometimes you just haven't tried something, or you haven't perfected a skill, not perfected as if, but
Right.
tuned a skill,
Uh-huh.
just you have to put yourself out there.
Yeah. So let me ask this question then. When we're thinking about your clients, what is something that your clients probably don't know about you, would you say? Maybe that you've mastered a certain skill and present really well to them when maybe that's not something that you are always like super great at or natural at.
Okay. I'll answer this in two ways.
Okay.
So the first way is I'm an introvert.
I was going to
And
ask because you
yeah,
said that you had to go out and network, and in the back of my head, I was wondering if that was really challenging for you, if you were introverted.
yes, I am introverted.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the reasons why I thought, I could never be in sales. And I love people, and I've just learned how to, recharge so that I can go out and be my best self
Mhm.
with my clients, and also where to say no so that I can say yes in a
Yeah.
better way to people in the field and with my clients. But I think maybe some people wouldn't think I'm an introvert, but if they spend enough time with me casually and in my personal life, they would totally know that. And the other thing Um, it would be that I'm really into the numbers.
Mhm.
Like one of my, and with my buyers, if they let me into that space of the transaction, I'm all in. But sometimes, people want a little separation. But um, like that's one of my favorite parts of the job is sitting down with someone and running their budget with them. I have a budget spreadsheet that has like recommendations on where your ratio should or should not exceed for your, household. And like, I love the financial piece of real estate.
Uh-huh.
That's probably one of my most favorite parts because it also requires some of the most problem solving.
Mhm.
And if I can get if I'm presented with two parties that we got to find the win-win, like I love it. I'm like, if there's a way, we will find it. It's a
Yeah.
challenge, but it's super rewarding.
I love that. So have you, I know that you said that most of your clients come in through open houses, or maybe not most, but like a significant portion. How have you been really focusing on turning them into clients for life? Because you kind of mentioned that. I absolutely love that term. I think that every client could, potentially be that client for life where they send us referrals, they think of us as their go-to real estate agent. How are you really making sure to manage the transaction and end it on a note that makes sure that that relationship is solid?
Yeah, absolutely. So I always start with a consultation,
Okay.
buyers or sellers. I
Yeah.
have guides that I either do digitally via Zoom consults or in person over a cup of coffee. And it's a time for me to say, hey, this is what this looks like. This is everything I can tell you before we get into the details of the transaction that we just might not know about yet,
Uh-huh.
that can prepare you so that when we're walking through this, I'm not dragging you along. We're walking hand in hand. You know the lingo. You understand the concepts of what we're doing here. So I always start with a consultation. Anytime that I have not had a consult with a client, the relationship never ends as
Hmm.
well connected. And I always feel like I'm just a step behind, trying to be like, oh yeah, this and oh yeah, that. So anyway, that's a big part. And then during the transaction, email templates, like a very systemized approach to keeping them in the loop. I always want to try to answer questions before they have to be presented. Not always can you do that, but that's always the goal. Um, and then after at closing, I love to do a personalized celebration of some kind with a gift or sneaking back in with a bottle of champagne or just something fun to help them feel like this is as big of a day to me for them as it is for them. And beyond that, newsletters and client events and checking in and staying up to date, connecting on social media, and just being there as a friend because by the time I get through transactions with most of my clients, especially when I'm working with an ideal client, I I want to go have dinner at their new house. I want to see all the things that they're doing. I want to meet the new dog who's just got a backyard, That is super fun. And to me, when you build that trust throughout the transaction, you just naturally want to stay engaged. And so then it's not some marketing ploy to get their business next time. It's just, hey, I've got your back in real estate and you know that I'm here just as a friend.
Yeah. I think that that's the best way of doing business. And it's something that really surprised me that you could have that level of like connection and relationship with people who initially hire you for a professional service, who then do become that friend. And it's just again a really comfortable way to do business organically and naturally. Do you want to continue having open houses to continue building up that database? Or do you have any plans of at some point being able to whittle down the hours with open houses to really focus more on referrals and repeat once that business continues to build up? What does that look like for you?
That's a great question. Um, I don't think open houses aren't necessarily my bread and butter because I set out for them to be my bread and butter.
Mhm.
I've just noticed that I have good success with connecting with people in those windows of time. And then the follow up that then leads to that consultation that leads to a client. Um, I do think that I would like to be able to depend on open houses less
Mhm.
because it can be a very exhausting. means of lead generating, just because there's a lot of rejection and there's a lot of pressure because you have to make a connection with someone so quickly. And then, some people just don't necessarily want to be presented with, hey, let's meet, da da da. They might just
Yeah.
be out hanging out. And I try to be sensitive and, empathetic to feeling people out too. Like, I don't want to just hold anyone up in the kitchen and give everybody a sales pitch.
Mhm.
I'm not meant to be everybody's realtor. So I do think, yeah, I would love to maybe depend on it less, but I don't know if I'd ever take it out of my business model
Sure.
because I do enjoy like the challenge of, oh, they seem like somebody like I could click with. Let's see if they're interested in chatting. And then when it works out, it's really rewarding. It's like, wow, can you believe that we met at an open house and here
Right.
we are? So,
Well, it kind of makes sense because for me, because I'm also introverted, for me, I do much better one-on-one than in a group setting, right? Do you find that that's kind of why open houses might just be kind of a natural place for you to make those connections?
yeah, I would agree.
Yeah,
You usually have one group in at a time. If you have multiple, they're not all talking to you at once.
sure.
Um, yeah, I do agree because I'm not necessarily trying to sell them anything. I'm just trying to learn and understand their needs and see if I can fill a gap.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you to share some of your secrets. Not that they're secrets, but real estate agents tend to have a really challenging time taking just a casual conversation from an open house and bridging that into the appointment. What does that process look like for you right now in like an ideal successful situation?
Yeah. So ideally, they walk in the door, I greet them, I give them a quick rundown of the house, and I let them look at the house. They
Okay.
don't need me to point them around or see how they're reacting to every room. So I feel like I give them the space that I would want to receive. And then as they're circling back through, and when I see another opportunity to just chat, I'll just ask questions that you'd ask anyone that you met for the first time. What are you guys out and about doing today? Do you guys live in the area? What do you think? Got any questions? Just normal things. And then just try to understand like what is their motivating factor for being in this open house this
Mhm.
day? Because there's enough going on that they've taken time out of their weekend to come look at a house. And a lot of times I find that they're not necessarily ready to buy a house right then. I've been told in the past that statistically open house leads are quicker to convert, but my personal statistics are the opposite of that, that most of my open house leads don't convert for at least a year.
Okay.
And so when I'm meeting these people, I'm keeping that in mind. It's like they don't have to be ready for the consult next week.
Hmm.
They but I need to just lead the conversation into, hey, I would love to take you out for a coffee and teach you about this process and help you get prepared for when you're ready, and let them control the pace of the relationship, but then get their contact information, get the feedback from the house, understand what they do and don't like, get them into a portal where they can get housing updates and just have a little bit of fun shopping with something a little more curated, and then just check in every now and then and just say, hey, that consult can happen 3 months before you're ready to buy, or it can happen 3 years before you're ready to buy. So please understand that this is for you, and it's not like a time sensitive, hey, within 3 months of me meeting you for coffee, you have to buy a house. So just helping them understand that there's no pressure. You're not signing anything today. We're just connecting.
Do you know what your conversion rate is for open house leads?
I don't know what my conversion rate is with every lead that I've ever connected with at an open house. That's something I should track though.
I'd be interested. I would be interested. And you know what would be interesting to see is if you tracked it from an earlier year, like maybe 2023 versus maybe this year, 2025. Of course, like you, with how long that cycle is being a year, I agree. Most of my experience with open house leads is minimum, it's going to take 6 months,
Mhm.
right? But would be interesting to know what that conversion rate is and then see if you can like continue to fine tune your systems a little bit to make sure to fill in any gaps. And that, I guess that leads me to my next question. Are there any systems or workflows specific from MAA that you've implemented either on the open house lead side or just the client journey in general that has been really helpful in making sure that things were organized and streamlined?
For sure. So going back to Asana, like creating the transaction file in there and having all of the like very specific tasks of, okay, we're at this stage. I'm going to send this email to help them understand what has happened and what is going to happen next, especially with like onboarding listings,
Mhm.
like getting everything really in front of you so that you can be strategic and there's no last minute, oh, hey, photos are this Wednesday at da da da. You know, it's like we all understand the approach, the timeline. So the Asana workflows, game changing. And what helped me so much with that is that you provide the templates, so you just plug and play. And the
Yeah.
hardest part about that is learning how to do the CSV file. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So having that, I would never have spent the time doing that, but it is so valuable. And then with the follow-up strategies, not just depending on, oh yeah, I met that person the other weekend, I guess I better check in. That feels scrappy, and they probably feel that, like, oh, I think she just randomly remembered us 3 months later. That
Mhm.
doesn't feel very intentional. And so why would they want to go out on a limb and seek a relationship that doesn't feel, you know, intentional. So,
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree with that more. And I think that when we do have that energy of like, oh, they're gonna find me out. Oh, this is really just kind of like a last minute thing. Their name came across my desk. Oh, they're gonna know. Whatever. We just have to follow up anyways. You know, that's not to say you shouldn't follow up in that situation because you definitely do, or should. In those situations, I'm always one to call it out. Like, oh, can't believe that I could kick myself for losing touch. Your name just came across my desk, right? At least get it out into the open to
yes.
dispel any of those like subconscious thoughts. Are you to stay on top of things, are you using a CRM right now? And if so, which one?
Yes. So I'm using one that's specifically provided by my brokerage
Okay, cool.
for now.
Hmm.
I've thought about branching out, and I just have not taken that next step. I thought, well, an organized database is step one.
Yeah,
And
for
so
sure.
since bringing on my husband, that's been a big task of his because his background is data analytics. So
Okay.
he's all about custom, CRM management, data management, all that. So he's helped me like put everybody in there, add in the birthdays, rank, like label them as buyer, seller, da da da. And
Hmm.
that's been super helpful because that was another thing in the beginning of MAA that I was like, oh, I know they say that the database is so important. I don't want to do data entry though.
Yeah, yeah. I don't want to
And
put it
then
together.
now that I have everyone there, it's like, no, I know exactly who I'm sending my newsletters to. I know exactly who I need to, reach out to and invite to these events and do these things. So um, that is where I'm at with the CRM. But it is organized and everyone's in there. So
That's all that matters. I always say, like, it doesn't matter which one you're choosing, the best one is the one that you'll use, right? And then as long as you have like your master file, like a spreadsheet or something of all of your people, just in a pinch, you can just upload that to your next CRM if you ever do choose to move and you know that you have your fail safe. What's his role going to be? What's your husband going to be doing as you bring him on into the business?
yeah, so he's currently not licensed, but he's going to get his license this year.
Okay.
Um, and his job is going to be back end, like transaction workflow management, scheduling photographers, inspectors, sending out all the paperwork, managing the file, managing the follow-ups for like the Google reviews. Even beyond that, helping me out with our website and SEO and building out the Google page and tapping into new sections that we haven't explored yet as well. For example, we want to create a YouTube channel, and we have some really creative ideas of how we want to niche down on some very particular type of client needs that we anticipate in our market. And so just trying to build something that is just a little bit wider, but just never loses that very intimate personal touch too. Because you have to scale
Mhm.
eventually to keep growing. But one of the reasons why he came on when he did is because I said, I want to continue to serve more people, but not at the risk of those new people not experiencing the type of service that I need to provide, because you can only spread yourself so thin. So he's helping me offload, and then I can go focus on some of the other tasks at a higher level.
I'm really excited for you guys.
Thank you.
I really am. Working with your spouse is cool because it's so rare to be able to have such a close look at seeing them in their element and really understanding like the impact that they can have on an organization, right? And so every now and then I get the, oh, I can never work with my spouse. And I'm like, why? It's so fun to be able to work towards a similar goal and to kind of be in the trenches with each other because otherwise you're kind of playing telephone for like the challenges that you're having in a certain week and you're trying to explain it, but they don't really get it because they're not in it. Is he in it enough to start to see some of the day-to-day stuff, or is he still like really learning all the ins and outs?
So we're at a point where I go into a sauna, and I'm like a spokesperson for sauna today. I go in there and I build out the to-do list, and then I will assign him the tasks that I'd like to hand off to him. So he's in the day-to-day. He's already, he's out and about right now checking on a property.
Yes,
So
he is.
yes, he is. So we are already at that point, and you know, something that I've learned about myself in this process is that I'm not as good of a delegator as I thought I would be. I did not prepare myself for that being a weak point for me. I thought, oh yeah, I'll be like, take it all, like absolutely.
Mhm.
But I guess just having done it all by myself for so long, I don't want to let go of certain things.
Mhm.
And I think what I'm realizing is that some of the tasks that make us feel productive aren't necessarily where we should be spending our time. And sometimes we hold on to certain things because they make us feel good to do, or, we enjoy doing them. But they're not necessarily where our energy is best spent. And they're sort of like a safety blanket because
Yeah.
they make us feel good.
Mhm.
But it's like, no, I need to give those things away, and I need to go put myself out there and push myself to do the tasks that are going to grow the business, like hosting the community events, farming the neighborhood, doing the things that push me. So
Yeah.
that's been, and now I'm like, oh, darn, I have to go do those things now because he's handling the other.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, it's funny because and you have a bona fide business partner at this point, right? But even something along the lines of bringing on a part-time VA, like a much smaller commitment in terms of delegating, that holds up as soon as you have another person at that level with you, it holds up a mirror to everything that you're doing each day. And it's a really interesting level of accountability. And a lot of times, real estate agents are thinking, like, I know I need help. I know I need to get to the next level, but I need somebody help to help me get there. And they wait and wait and wait before taking that leap until the right time, quote unquote, the right time. When really it's having that person there that's going to give you the accountability to make sure you're doing the right things that help you meet and exceed that next level. So, was it when you made the decision to bring your husband in, was it a question of, okay, now the timing is right, we're at a level of production where we feel comfortable, or was it truly, if we're going to continue getting to that next level and beyond, we have to have your help here? Which one was it?
It was kind of a little bit of both.
Okay.
So this year is going to be, I believe, my best year ever. And so it was like, well, if we're going to take this risk,
Mhm.
you know, the pipeline looks good. I think we're going to be fine, obviously financially, and just putting safeguards in place. Because
Yeah.
the reality is we were getting rid of a salary, and so there's that pressure to replace it
Yeah.
with the business. And so we were thinking this is a time where we can go ahead and do this. Like, we feel comfortable to take this risk this year. But also, I told myself, I said, if we want the business to look the way that we want it to in 5 years, when we're thinking about having kids and like trying to shift how our day to day looks,
Hmm.
then we have to start sometime. We can't wait until a year out from that and be like, okay, now's the time to try to,
Right.
build the business together and have more, flexibility in our schedules, or at least control over our schedules. So we thought, well, we have to go ahead and try it now.
Yeah.
And I knew that we'd regret it if we didn't take the risk, because to me, the what we might possibly have lost in the future was way greater than any of the, financial risks that we maybe would endure this year, for example.
Yeah. Tell me what that vision is. Like, what do you want business to look like 5 years from now, assuming everything goes perfectly according to plan?
Yes, I'm betting on it. um, Part of it is just more time together. And when we're parents one day,
Hmm.
hopefully, that we will have the ability to be at the mommy and me breakfast and the 3 o'clock pickup and the 1 p.m. whatever it is. We just want to be able to say, okay, this is what we're going to do to shift things around to be where we want to be and present in the areas of our life that are most important to us. And financial freedom, and that has always kind of been a big motivator of why we do what we do and where we prioritize our time and our money and things like that, because we just want to be able to create a life that we look back and go, we were intentional about that, and we were able to put our time where we wanted it to be spent. Now, for the business side of it, I hope that in 5 years, it's not just us two anymore. I hope that we have, maybe some other people on board, very boutique team like dynamic, possibly. Um, Josh has aspirations to be in the commercial space with real estate. So there's lots of dreams and ideas. But I think the nitty gritty of what I do every day will look very similar. I never want to be removed from the buyer consultation at the coffee shop, or, sneaking back in with a closing gift, or having those creative conversations with lenders and buyers to prepare them for the purchase, and helping people, buy and sell and move closer to their aging parents, and just all the emotional piece of residential real estate. I never ever want to be removed from that. It's what makes doing this every day worth it.
Hmm.
And it's part of the chase. So I think we'll always have our hands in it, but it would be nice to um, have built something that is also a little bit more sustainable without us having to be the one that picks up every single little task along the way.
Yeah. What's cool is you have a really clear vision and a very clear mission. Like, just in what you're describing, your values are very clear to me. And as long as you have that as your like compass, as your North Star, that will act as a filter for you to make decisions along the way that are going to be aligned with where you want to go. So regardless of like whether it's decisions and how you guys are navigating the day to day, or decisions in hiring as you go down the line, when it's time to build that small but mighty team, you're going to be able to attract the right people and the right strategy because you have the values, you have the mission, you have the sense of where you want to go. I'm perfectly confident that you'll be able to get there.
Thank you. I am going to just keep doing what I know to do,
Hmm.
and then peek up every now and then and look around and soak it all in, and then get right back down to it. I saw this wonderful quote, or interesting quote, I guess, the other day, talking about how being an entrepreneur or having success as an entrepreneur often feels like sprinting uphill,
Uh-huh.
because it's overwhelming, it's exhilarating, it's rewarding when you get to the next overlook, but then you sit there and you look around And you have this tendency, or I do, to go, well, don't lose your footing. Like you've gotten all the way up here. Don't slip and fall, right?
Hmm.
And so it's definitely one of those things that you just have to remind yourself. I didn't get here by luck. There was intentionality behind what I did, and even when I didn't see the fruits of my labor at the time, look at what has come from that. And just maintaining that mindset has kept me motivated to keep building and doing.
I love that. I think that that's the perfect note to end on. Because I think that if anyone can learn a lesson like that, they are going to be all the better for it, right? Such a great conversation, Chandley. And I want to be a good steward of your time. I could keep you here and talk to you for hours. I bet there's so much to cover. But I want to acknowledge you for being so generous with your story and your journey and sharing what's working for you. And I'm so excited to see how this next chapter unfolds for you. And for those who want to follow along, where should they connect with you?
Yeah, so Instagram is Chandley_Green, spelled like Chandler, but a Y instead of an R. And then Facebook, Chandley Brook Green. And we also have a website now. It's www.chandleygreenrealestate.com.
Fantastic.
And one day on YouTube, one day.
I, you absolutely should. YouTube, I feel like is the final frontier for real
Right.
estate agents who really want to like plant that flag in the ground and make it their long time thing. And when you guys are ready, let me know if you need any help. But I think that you are going to have more than enough material to work with between the two of you, coming up with ideas. You said you have a lot of creative ideas and dreams that you want to kind of put into place there. So I'm really looking forward to seeing it all unfold. And Chanley, thanks so much for spending time with me here on the Market Authority Show. I'm so happy that you're able to hop on and have a great conversation today. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.